Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy, it's easy to learn the rules. Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington Show.
Welcome one and all. It's the Andy and Rem Show yet again, and it's episode 111, episode 111 if you will. And who would have thought that when we reach this milestone, talking about something a little bit different, safe to say. Hello, Mr. Remington. How are you this
Hello.
fine evening?
Hello, Warhammer friends. I invented that phrase, by the way. But anyway, yeah, I'm very good. I've been painting the fence all day. Painting the fence. It's not just one of those small ones. This is Chateau de Remington, Part 2.
So
Mark 2.
It's not a medium fence, it's a huge one.
It goes down down the whole street. It weren't easy, mate. And
Were you using the Remington roller?
Very like. Pardon?
Were you using the Remington roller by any chance?
That would have been very useful. The Remington roller. Roll out.
A giant Remington roller, very handy for painting large fences and other huge items.
I love it. My problem is that the ideas are there, but I can't make the prototype so good. So that's where I need help. Anyway, we'll talk about that later, Andy. What the hell's going on? An hour ago, I found out this is all about 40k. Blasphemy.
Well, there is a lot going on. And I've just had a comment in the chat, actually, that my microphone's cutting in and out a smidge. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to suffer for my art, and I'm going to turn off the giant fan that's blasting towards me, because that might be causing some distortion. So I'm going to go and do that while Mr. Remington entertains you for a moment.
Hey everyone, at last, it's my own show. You know how long I've waited to do this? Oh God, he's back. Hey Andy.
Okay, I'm back, and hopefully that has dealt with that issue. And everyone saw the wonderful box of Ritz crackers behind me as well. Very tasty crackers there. So, Mr. Remington.
Yes, Andy.
For many a year, when we were playing Warhammer Fantasy, we mocked those out there who perhaps weren't the most advanced of gamers, shall we say. They weren't the upper tier of the gaming world. They played on their round safety bases with their Space Marines, their nice simple colour schemes, while some of us were out there in the slightly more advanced world. Warhammer Fantasy, square bases, banner poles. However, obviously times have changed significantly, and Warhammer Fantasy, of course, changed to round bases, which kind of bridged the gap a little bit. And now, we're actually going to talk about some Space Marines on this show. How are you feeling?
A bit nervous. And after you put out the call to arms, as it were, I went on and checked out the new Warhammer 40k website. It looks pretty snazzy. And then an idea came to mind. Maybe $1 million idea that could unite the two communities. What if we had a new game? Not Warhammer 40k 9th edition or Warhammer Fantasy 9.2 edition or Age of Sigmar 3 edition. What about Age of Sigmar versus 40k? Imagine a force of Space Marines being annihilated by an Orruk war clan or some Gloomspite Gips.
I imagine that on a regular basis.
Who would win? What would happen? Would it be fun? I don't know.
Well, obviously 40k, they've got the bigger, more advanced guns, but their magic seems to be lagging a bit behind because they only have psychic powers. They don't have real magic, do they?
I mean, it's entirely plausible in the lore as well, because 40k armies could visit long forgotten worlds and distant parts of the galaxies and find primitive societies, right?
Well, that's if they
So,
don't just annihilate them from orbit immediately.
well, sure, there's always that in there, but it's not the fantasy world isn't without its god powers, you know.
Now, it's safe to say that you've never played a game of 40k in your life, so the idea of a new edition coming along doesn't really tell you anything, does it? When
No,
you see
is there any
snippets, when you see snippets of the
major
new rules and you hear things like tanks can shoot in combat now, that doesn't set off anything in your brain because you didn't know that they couldn't shoot in combat previously.
they couldn't.
They could not. Can you imagine having a tank driving along, and because there's like a dog jumping up at, like a little poodle jumping up at the side of your tank, you're no longer allowed to fire the cannon at the enemy?
So people would just like rush the tanks, would they? So
Pretty
they couldn't
much.
shoot.
They were just
Right.
treated as other units. You're just locked in there. So
Don't they
apparently they've
have
got rid of
like
that now.
don't they have like a gazillion different weapons though? These 40k tanks, don't they have like
Yes, but you wouldn't be able to use any of them if people were touching you. Or you could only use them to shoot things maybe that were right on you. It was a bit weird.
Are you excited? You must be, right?
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Everyone loves giant space marines.
You don't know, do you? What do you like Necron?
I've got a few Necrons actually. I was making a Necron kill team until I realised that I despise the kill team rules. But we're looking at this Space Marine right here, and taller than the old Space Marines, these new Primaris Marines.
What does Primaris mean? Does that mean they're the first?
I think it translates roughly into Latin as "we can trademark this."
Ah, okay. Is it which one are you looking at? The one with the shield or the one?
I'm looking at the one with the chainsaw, kind of the nice action pose.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, you don't usually see them in an action pose like that, do you? They should do more of that kind of thing. It's a bit of a drab blue, though, isn't it, Andy? That is.
Yeah, no one likes Ultramarines.
No.
They're clearly the most boring Space Marines. Dark Angels are obviously the most interesting because they have the 3 different wings of the army, so they can have 3 different colour schemes within the same force.
So a Space Marine is a Space Marine, but you know their chapters by the colour of the armour and the insignias.
Yes. And as
Right.
far as I'm aware, the Primaris Marines are because somebody woke up from a long sleep and decided, you know what, these Space Marines just aren't tall enough. We need to make bigger Space Marines. So they went into the lab, started like stretching out shin bones, and this is what they came back with. Giant Space Marines.
Yeah, but they ought to be bigger because they're like supermen, aren't they? Can you get women Space Marines like you can get?
There's these Sisters of Battle.
Right, okay, they look amazing. I love them.
Yeah, those new models are very nice. I think they're the closest thing at the moment.
They all seem to have the same hairdresser, don't they?
Well, when you're in a deeply religious order like that, there's probably all kinds of rules regarding what kind of hairstyles are permitted.
All like Madwoman haircut, isn't it?
How do you think you'd deal if you were part of some kind of religious cult where they forced you to adhere to a particular hairstyle?
What's the hairstyle? Is my first question.
Well, it'd have to be something that you wouldn't like, just to make it an interesting question.
To be fair, I've probably had almost every haircut conceivable.
You ever had a hairstyle like a monk with just like the big whoosh at the back?
Oh, like a Henry IV haircut. Henry V.
I'm not sure you've ever had that in your life.
No. Oh, actually, yes, I have. We had a barber called Mr. Cherry down the road, and he used to wear the white lab coat. It was like old school, you know, and he'd have a little cupboard in there, and there was like condoms in his little, you know, that's the only place where you could buy them from. And he had like, and he used to smoke a cigarette over you while he cut your hair, and it was a horrible experience. He always did a bowl cut. Horrible, Mr. Cherry.
I can't imagine why times have moved on.
But he looks so professional. I mean, he was an awful hairdresser, but he just looked professional with his white lab coat on and his little black briefcase. I reckon there's something dodgy going on. I reckon he was like stealing diamonds or something and transporting them back and forth in
Well,
that
you
black
would hope
briefcase.
that's what it is if he's your barber and he's got a black briefcase that he just keeps nearby at all times. You think maybe if there's a customer that comes in he thinks won't be missed, maybe he opens up that briefcase, gets out a few of his tools.
It
Could have been
wasn't
that
really
kind
a
of
clever
situation.
like hairdressers for men has just completely transformed, doesn't it? Now it's becoming almost a luxury experience. I think a big Turkish influence there. There's like Turkish barbers everywhere. You should try it out, Andy. God, it's about time. You ever tried the hot wet blade and
I
they do
can't
all
say that
the
I have. My
they do,
hairstyles are pretty much let it grow. It's annoying today. All gone. Then let it
someone in
grow
the
again.
someone in the comments last week said you're starting to look very much like the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Which one is the question? There have been a few of them over the years. That would
Which one would you
determine.
like to be?
Well, I'd have to go through and look at them all. Maybe we can line that up for next week. We'll get all the different sheriffs out and see which one we want to aspire to become.
I think you'd make a great Sheriff of Nottingham. I do. Ultimately, you get defeated by Remington Hood.
Remington Hood, oh dear. Well, maybe
Man,
maybe that can come up in the next Forest of Rem and do
I'd
something
like
with it.
that. Yes. So,
So
what are you saying? Are you saying thumbs up to these new space?
I'm saying thumb directly horizontal to new Space Marines. Like, I'm pretty indifferent to them. However, I do like these new Necrons, like this one we're looking at here with 3 legs. And it looks like he's got 3 arms, unless there's another one hiding under there as well.
It's a big model, that isn't it? It looks
That's
like
got to
it's
be a
pretty
big piece of metallic meat we've got going on there.
Tell me a little bit about Necron technology then. What's that green stuff? Is it plasma?
Well, I can tell you everything I know about Necrons. It may not include anything about their technology. But they're one of the most controversial races in 40k because originally they were pretty much Terminators. So that's obviously where the look was inspired. It's these machines that suddenly wake up and they start killing everything and trying to take over like emotionless, like metal husks. However, a few years ago now, they redid them and someone wrote a new book for them and completely changed their entire backstory. So now they're like these like extravagant, kind of more personality riddled creatures. And people weren't pleased about that. They started like writing a fluff for them where they would ally with other factions, which was kind of a no-no originally. So people didn't really get on board with that. And I don't know what.
Andy, can you become a Necron? Can you be
I
converted
don't think
to...
they can turn you into a Necron, as far as I know.
What do they want?
I think they just want to. I think they originally wanted to just wipe out everybody because that was their job, and now I don't know. I think they like collecting things actually now.
Okay, well let's just quickly flip back to the Imperium, all right? Because I understand 30k, I understand the Horus Heresy, and then we're in 40k now, and some of the primes have come back, like Gilliman, and he's like, why is everyone worshipping the Emperor? That's not what he wanted. And so it's become sort of a seedy empire, right? Is that where we are now, or is
I
this ninth edition
believe
something
so.
new?
It's lucky we've got these 2 top-notch 40k experts running the show tonight, isn't it?
In it, right? So why are you doing this? Is it clickbait, or is it just to get rid of all our fans we've spent 4 weeks trying to claw back?
It's to get rid of kind of the like fair weather fans that we don't really want. The ones that are going to disappear when times are tough. We want to just weed them out now.
And while we're there, Andy, let's give a shout out to some of the legends, some of the A-listers that are in the chat right now. They've stood by us through thick and thin. I'm talking about Mickey Genva, Bazooka J Rambo, or Void Captain Bazooka is his new name. We've got Maxim Beefus, John Blake, howdy doody, Chief. Stu Gibson, Braca Jimenez, Rafaj, Max, we said Maxim. But just these legends of our channel just keep coming up every time. So thanks, guys. Make sure you click the dislike button for the YouTube algorithm.
I think we need to get Mr. Stu back on the show at some point, because I think he knows a bit about 40k now, because he's been into that for a while. So if we ever want to talk about it again, if I don't lose 99% of my subscribers based on this show. I mean, how many dislikes do we have at the moment? I can't see that.
Well, last week we had something like 15 or 16 dislikes.
But the likes skyrocketed last week, though. I think because we talked about it, everyone started clicking the like button, and that's usually how it goes. As soon as you mention it, suddenly people think, oh wait, I haven't liked the video yet, here we go.
Yeah, that's nice, man. But it's a bit like a roller coaster. We shot up the rankings with the first show, and then went down, and then went down further, and now we're on our way back up again. It's just quality content. I think that's what brings people back, isn't it?
Sure is. And we've also been acquiring quite a few new viewers as well recently, which is interesting. And people have maybe joined the community in the last few months prior to the return of this glorious institution. Okay, we've got another Space Marine here. This one's got a shield, which he's not really using to protect himself unless there's something behind him. He's pointing his pistol forwards. If I was this guy, I'd be pointing the pistol over the top of the shield like that. I think that would be safer. What do you think of this?
I think he's got enough armor already. He doesn't need a shield.
I think he's got too many accessories on him, this guy. I don't think he needs all that danglage going on. Got things hanging off every crevice.
What's the halo thing then for? Is it to attract people to shoot you or something? Is it like Here I Am kind of?
Well, it's so they have this sport that the Space Marines play mid-battle where they'll like throw a ball and try and get it through each other's halo for bonus points. But often a halo like that usually signifies some kind of like an invulnerable save or something along those lines.
It's a great mini, isn't it? It's cool, man. If you had a Space Marine army, what faction would you choose? Would you be in the good guys or would you be in the dark?
Well, I usually play Dark Angels, and there's long raged a debate about whether they're actually good or evil. But if I was going to start another Space Marine faction at some point, then I wouldn't do the same one again. I'd probably make up my own. They're like somewhat mysterious, but mostly good. And they'd obviously be in orange, because I've never done orange Space Marines before. But what colour would you do yours if you had to start some Space Marines?
I don't know. Has anyone ever done like a colour scheme, like a USA colour scheme? You know,
Probably.
like a red, white, and blue, or a Captain Britain kind of vibe, you know?
Probably. So you wouldn't do them like metallic and call them the Remington Steels then, or the Steel Remingtons?
What? I've never seen silver. Can you get silver ones then?
Yeah, there are some.
What are they called? What chapter? They're not a chapter, are they?
There is a chapter that's all kind of metallic looking, but I can't remember what they're called right now. We've got people in the chat who would know that.
I think it's Iron Fist, isn't it? Something like that one.
Something like that. Oh, Iron Warriors, Mickey says.
The Iron
Silver
Warriors.
Skulls. We've got 3 people popped up and said that immediately.
Well, that's cool. I don't know if you'll show them the next picture, which is like a huge diorama.
A huge battle scene, and the Games Workshop even added little bits to it. And you know what I'm going to do? I love
that, man.
I'm going to direct the audience towards things by bringing up an arrow on the screen right now. Let's see if I can move this. Okay, there we go.
I can tell you about 4 or 5 things that's been a complete direct rip-off from our show right here.
Okay, go for it.
Well, at least 1 or 2 then. What is that? What is that? Isn't that like, what the hell is that?
Well, they've just shortened the name of our most popular segment, that's all.
And just...
I mean, what the hell is that, though? It's some kind of walking... Is it walking or floating? It looks like it's got 2 little stumpy legs kind of in the ground there with bigger legs attached on top of them.
Are these all, like, new miniatures, then?
Yes, apart from some of them are old, mixed in there. I think this flyer, the old classic Necron croissant.
It looks like something out of Aliens, doesn't it? That
Does
spacecraft.
actually. And if you were the pilot, if you were this Necron pilot,
Yeah.
all this thick aircraft armor, would you be pleased to see your own little head poking out the top of this plane like that?
No, you'd be disappointed, wouldn't you? You haven't got more protection.
Yeah, as a Necron who's spent years in pilot school, you're finally heading out onto the battlefield and you realise they haven't even got a window in the cockpit.
No.
No protection
Yeah.
whatsoever.
And then what's that sort of god-looking thing with electrical things coming out? And it says, "Look at the size of that thing."
This thing here, I don't know what that is, but it looks huge and it's got lightning and wings and all that other fun stuff.
It says it's a Catan. Now, if I remember my lore rightly, and I'm no expert. If you hadn't noticed, didn't the Necrons weren't they fighting a big war against the Catan, or were the Catan this ancient race that gave them the power?
Something like that. I seem to think that they kind of kidnapped all these gods and
Oh
used
yes,
them.
I remember. Andy,
Yeah,
I remember. So you had the old ones, didn't you? And the old ones were fighting with a race called the Catan or something like that. And the Catan kind of didn't they cheat the Necron um, civilization by promising them lots of power and everlasting life, and then they helped them win the war, and then the Catan kind of turned them all into uh, robots.
let's
I
go
don't
with
know. I
that.
probably messed that up, haven't I?
Probably something like that. And what about this Whoomp, there it is guy here, which is just like an armless, legless torso. It's green and it's floating on a platform and it's got like
Yeah.
energy shields around it. It's got like priests on the steps in front of him, so he's got to be something quite important there.
Oh, yeah, that's the king, isn't it? That's the
What's he?
silent.
Yeah, the Silent King, they seem to be calling it.
Must be pretty difficult to command your armies if you can't talk.
Well, he can't even use sign language because he doesn't have any arms.
Really, you can't even point.
Maybe he's got like the Professor Hawking system, where he's like set up with a tiny bit of his body that can perhaps move. I'm not going to speculate on what that is because we don't know what he's got missing. But maybe on a little keyboard, he has to program in his orders hours in advance. Or maybe he's just magical and just like sends out these magical pulses from his mind that get into the circuits of all the Necron warriors.
Where do Necrons stand in the spectrum of evil?
I think they're pretty damn evil. I think
Are they
they used to
more
be more like a neutral, kind of just destructive force of nature, but I think they have become more evil, arguably, over time. As
Are they more evil than the Tau?
I don't think the Tower considered evil.
Okay, so Tau are good. What about Harlequins? Are they good?
I think a case could be made, but I think in some ways all the races in 40k are somewhat evil.
Okay, what about the Dark Eldar?
I think the Dark Eldar are definitely
Are they more evil than the Tau?
yes. I think
Are they more
the
evil
Dark Eldar enjoy torturing people, so I would imagine
Yes,
that
okay.
boosts them up on
But
the evil chart.
who's more evil, Dark Eldar or Necrons?
I would probably guess at Dark Eldar.
Really? Okay. Dark Eldar or Chaos stuff?
Ooh, probably Chaos then. But I think
Okay.
to be evil, you need to have a certain level of understanding of what's going on. You can't just be pre-programmed into you. There has to be some kind of malevolent force there. It can't just be something that's natural, like predetermined. Like you wouldn't say a hurricane is evil.
Okay. Yes, I see. But would the Necrons work with other races? Because I'm sure I've read one story where they teamed up with some Space Marines to
Yeah,
do
they
something.
teamed up with some Blood Angels, and it was very controversial, and people put bricks through the author's window and all kinds of stuff, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if they actually did that, but people certainly threatened to.
Wow, cool. Right, and have you all had enough for 40k yet? Or do
I
you
don't
want
think
more?
they have, because look at this. They've got Primaris Marines down here. 3 of them, and I think they're about to die. So I think we've had enough of this picture though, so we can get rid of Mr. Arrow from the screen.
Have these Marines got like more than one wound? Have they got like 2 or 3?
I believe they do. We've got a Space Marine with a very flat-ended sword here. So he's in black, so I'm going to guess he's a chaplain. And have you seen a sword like that before that doesn't have a point at the end?
It's for like, you sort of chastise people with a sword like that, don't you? It's more like a cricket bat. You sort of just smack people with it.
Yeah, maybe it's kind of a new sporting theme for the Space Marines because they've got those halos on top of their head. Maybe you like throw a Necron skull towards this guy, it's just straight through the hole.
Why is he in black and not blue?
Because he's a chaplain, I believe.
So he's like a priest. Then.
Yeah, chaplains typically have black, and then they'll have the regular chapter colours on their shoulder pad.
Can he do spells and stuff, or is it more like prayers?
Chaplains don't typically have like psychic powers. They're more like boosting guys around them with their holy aura type business.
Can they heal people?
I don't know whether they can actually heal people or not.
What's the lamp for then? What's the hourglass thing for? Is it just to tell people the time, or to say, look, we've got until this sun's run out, and then we've got to go home?
Well, we've got until the sun's run out, and then I'm going to hit you with this blunt instrument.
Okay, so he issues orders out, and then he turns the, I forgot what they call hourglass round. Okay.
You know what this sword makes me think of? Whenever I see a sword with a flat top like that, I think of the Lord of the Rings. The orcs kind of had weapons like that, didn't they? Where it's like part sword, part axe, kind of.
Yes, it's more of a bludgeoning weapon, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's got a sharp edge to it, but it's very flat. Top.
His face looks like a skull with a mask on.
It probably is if he's a chaplain.
Well, you could mistake him for a Necron, a fat Necron.
Do Necrons get fat?
Oh, if they put that much armor on, they would look fat.
So it could be a Necron in disguise. That would be the worst disguise ever if he's keeping the most obvious Necron feature visible to everybody.
What does it say on his sword? Gris Minus. Terminus. Terminus?
It looks like it says that, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Fascinating.
Cool.
Bazooka says this Marine is a new one called a Judicar or something similar. He chops off people's heads.
Is it like Judicator, isn't it, in Age of Sigmar?
Well, there are a lot of similarities. So you don't need to actually stab people, which is why it doesn't need a point on the sword. He just whoosh, off with the heads instead. So it's a very specific battlefield role, decapitation. Because there are a lot of enemies in the 40k universe where that's not entirely practical.
I think that's a good tactic. If you're fighting Necrons, you definitely want to slice off their robotic heads, wouldn't you? You'd think that would kill them.
You would imagine that all the main processing circuitry is kept in the head. But you never know. And here's a Necron warrior now. A new Necron warrior. And the old ones used to have those transparent green rods that you put in. Like, do you remember those?
No, I never built one.
Well, the part where your face is photoshopped into the thumbnail, that would have just been a little plastic green rod that you could put in after painting them. So
that's how they made him look so nice.
So that's
I thought everyone actually painted them.
So that's how they did it back in the day, but they've got rid of those now, and you actually have to paint them.
Okay, so
they look a bit fancier than the old Necron warriors. The faces have a bit more to them. New ones, a bit more variety in them.
I think he'd look even better if he had a cloak. Don't you? Like a crimson cloak. He'd look badass with that.
Necrons with cloaks. What do we think about that, folks?
They could sort of assimilate into society better then, couldn't they? They could just...
So,
the cloaks.
On the topic of the thumbnail, and because Mickey's just made the comment, should have photoshopped in Rem's rod. Well, that's pretty much what it is. It's like a rod of pure Remington in the weapon. But if there were going to be weapons in the 40k universe, you've got the Rem cannon or the Rem blaster, and you've got the twin linked Andy cannon. What are these weapons going to be like? How would they affect the game? What's their battlefield role? What kind of enemies should be terrified of them? Get creative, folks. We want to hear all about that. So, let's move off this Necron Warrior and onto a giant Space Marine bike. Because the old Space Marine bikes obviously weren't built for the extra tall Space Marines, but this one clearly is. It's more like a little tank, isn't it? An absolute beast.
Yeah, that's like going to shoot little mini missiles out the front of that. But the problem with his gun at the front is that if he wants to shoot someone on the sides with it, he's going to have to turn his bike.
Yeah, he's got his pistol though.
It doesn't have independent, I don't know what you call that, rotation. He can only fire straight forward with his big gun.
Yeah, it makes me think of things like Star Wars when you've got certain spaceships and when they're flying in, shooting down, like an X-Wing, for example, they can shoot straight forwards and then once they get near the target, they have to kind of fly out again and then come back in for another run.
Here's another one for you, Andy. The only Space Marines I've seen with facial hair are the, the wolf ones. How come every other Space Marine's like bald? They're all baldies.
That's an interesting point. I don't know. I assume it's something to do with religion. Space Wolves just...
He'd look great with like a magnum moustache.
Maybe that's a thing they should start doing. I'm going to imagine that Space Wolves are just regular Space Marines that got lost out in the wilderness without any razors. That's the official Space Wolf fluff from now
on. Yeah, I like it. Have you ever painted a motorbike?
I've painted some Space Marine bikes. Got some Dark Angels Ravenwing bikes.
Is it a whole new set of skills? Like, 'cause in Age of Sigmar and Fantasy, you don't have to paint tyres.
Well, the way I painted them, it wasn't a whole new set of skills because it was a lot of edge highlighting. They were black. So it was not too difficult.
They look pretty cool. What can a bike do in a board game? What do they do? Are they just like fast cavalry?
Typically, yes. Bikes are just faster. Sometimes they're a bit tougher than your average guy as well, but usually it's just a bit of a speed boost.
Right, okay. Cool. Yeah, that's wicked. Do you think that comes with a 2 or 3 bikes, or is it just the one?
Well, it seems to be in a set of 3, I think. We've got another guy here with a shield. And it's a nice shield. He's got a sword as well.
Got the red, white, and blue. Why is his helmet red?
I don't know. Maybe he's extra holy, so he gets a special helmet because he's so cool.
What's in the bag? A big bag there.
Who knows? Nurgling says, bikes make no sense in 40k, I gotta say. That seems pretty fair. I think anything that speed you up on land, not entirely sold on anyway, because they're all in spaceships anyway, so they could just land closer to the target. And if it's a difficult target, then they could just blow up the whole planet anyway. In fact, why don't they just blow up every planet apart from the one that they inhabit if they like blowing up planets so much?
Well, they've got millions of planets. Rob Lloyd Tweet said the red helmets are for sergeants.
Oh, well, there you go. Let's answer that question. Okay, that's enough Space Marines now.
Right, we're done with 40k then?
Yeah, so before we go on to the rumour engine, you've got a couple of news items that you want to lay on the audience. But before we get to that, let's have a look and see if anyone has suggested any weapons for us in 40k. If they haven't, I'll be very disappointed. And it'll remind me to do talking points before the actual show instead of during it. People get into their own little worlds in there. No suggestions for the Remington cannon or the Andy blaster or the
Andy blaster.
The Rem rifle.
I can't see many people choosing the Andy blaster.
I'm sure they would.
It's like a machine. It's like a weapon of last resort, that, isn't it? But the Rem cannon's like the ultimate, really, isn't it? That's just auto sixes all the way.
The heavy rem rifle.
Nice auto hit. Yes. I
Auto
like
hit
it.
unless you roll a 1 on the skull dice, obviously. So it would be like the plasma weaponry, where if you roll a 1, there's a chance you're just going to immediately die.
So plasma just disintegrates. It doesn't explode.
Yeah, I wouldn't take a plasma weapon out onto the battlefield if there's a 1 in 6 chance that it's going to just explode every time I fire it.
Is that what happens then?
Pretty much. I don't know how it is in the rules now. I think you might get an armor save for it now. It used to just immediately kill you. So would you like to take that weapon out onto the battlefield? That you fired it a few times and you're thinking, this is getting a bit risky now.
Well, whenever we play like first-person shooters, I always like a shotgun weapon. It's just great fun. You know, I'm not into guns or nothing like that, but within a game,
You
yeah,
prefer
I
the
like
up close and personal weapon.
up close, heavy damage stuff, definitely, and then sniper rifles. Love it.
Maxim says, the Andy Blaster, roll d6, on a 1 to 6, suffer 6 wounds of damage. Is that you suffering the damage, or is it the target suffering the damage?
Maybe you have to roll another dice to determine that.
Steve says the Reminator cannon.
Reminator.
Maxim says, Rem cannon, kill everyone on game board and go play some AOS. So it's like it's just a game-ending weapon.
So basically, are you trying to get us into 40k with this? What are you doing with this, Andy?
Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but people like 40k, and they click on it. And there's nothing new to talk about in the realm of AOS this week. So why not? And we've dragged in upwards of 15 viewers. I expect more viewers as the weeks go on this particular video, and then the dislikes will probably climb, because they'll get a few minutes in and think, okay, these people might know what they're talking about. And then when we start trying to give our take on the 40k background, I think they may realise that something's up.
Well, I was trolling through your videos on your channel, Andy. Did you know that one of the videos, which is the most popular, had almost 18,000 views?
Which one was it?
More than 18,000 views. And it was basically clickbait, but it said, Age of Sigmar has no rules.
Or has no tactics, yeah, that one.
Has no tactics, yes. Age of Sigmar has no tactics.
Well, it just shows you have to use clickbait if you want to get the thousands and thousands of views. Provocative titles, provocative thumbnails, and then the content only has to partially deliver on that, and it still gets a good result.
Was the that was the thesis going round at the time, wasn't it, for a bit?
It was until people like us shattered that illusion and started bringing red-hot tactical tips to the table, served up fresh and juicy to the masses. And then other people kind of took it further as we kind of sat back and rested on our limited Age of Sigmar tactical knowledge.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, it would be nice to go back. Maybe we could do a whole show where we just go back into your most popular videos and just analyse them.
Well, the video that's been getting a lot of hits lately is the how to unblock a glue needle, which I did a few years ago, but recently it's picked up a few more thousand views, which says to me that certain people who've maybe got more time on their hands lately, due to certain world events, have picked up their old glue bottle, realised the glue's not coming out, and Googled how to unblock a glue needle and found my video.
Well, you know what, Andy? That is one of the secrets to success in life, is solving problems.
Well, I would call a video like that money in the bank, because it's guaranteed over its life cycle to get a certain number of views, regardless of how initially successful it is, because it's something that people are always going to be searching for over time. It's like my video on how to protect the corners of your books as well. Top secret, it's just sellotape.
Andy, let's get the chat going. Guys, can you recommend any top tips for Andy to boost his viewership to help people?
Or how about for the Remington Steel channel, which is just overflowing with content? Well, you keep telling people to subscribe, but there's no videos going up.
No, I've actually I'm going to start a new channel, I think. I'm going to start a new channel. I've been planning it all, and it's going to be kind of Warhammer-ish, but more like, well, how to become successful. And I'm going to call it Remington's Millions. Think of that.
Well, I think you're going to have to put a little disclaimer on there, informing people that if they follow your advice, you're not legally responsible for their impending bankruptcy.
I didn't say they'd become millionaires. I just said they could become successful.
Successful at what?
Wherever they choose.
Life? You're going to become like a motivational speaker?
Partially, yes, but it's also deep diving into the world of, solving problems, helping people. Because what better thing in this life is there to do but try and help people and pass on your wisdom so they don't make the same mistakes as maybe you made. I don't know. That's what the thought is anyway. I might get 2 or 3 views. It would be like just a document of my journey over the last 18 months.
Trying to give people something positive in these dark and turbulent times.
Yes, I think Remington's Millions is just a brilliant title, but it might mislead people. But I can't think of anything else right now.
So as people are out there on their lifeboats in the troubled waters of these dark and gloomy times, there's going to be a lighthouse beacon in the distance, and it's going to be Remington's life advice being dispensed as you row your boat past. You take some lessons on board, and you think, you know what, I can do this.
Well, if you imagined that this world right now is the Titanic, and we've just hit some ice, and Remington no one believed in my lifeboat, all right, until the crash, and now I'm rowing the lifeboat away, and there's people in the water everywhere, and they're all crying for help, but I just can't collect them all, but I'm trying. So that's what the channel is.
Remington's Ark.
The Ark of Rem. Remark.
To escape the floodwaters of life.
Remark. No, don't like that. Yes, something like that. I don't know. Or I could just do it on my channel.
You could, where you already have a built-in subscriber base.
I've got almost, guys, this is phenomenal. I've had 2 extra likes of my channel, subscriptions, since the last show. And if you put that on a graph, that's a huge increase. Massive.
Exponential growth.
Yeah, definitely. So what are you saying? What are you saying, guys? Should I just start something brand new? Because I've got a little bit of time off. Not too much, but a little bit. And I've got tons of ideas, tons of content. And I do want to do it. And I can do the technology part of it now as well. So should I do a new channel, Remington's Millions, or carry on with the Warhammer stuff?
Well, Mickey says, a whole new channel with no videos on? So yeah, you could have 2 channels that aren't putting out any content. That would be much better.
Well, I found a niche, you see. I found a niche that I feel that no one is exploring. And so that's what I want to do. I think in life, you should try and do things that other people aren't doing.
It's a niche that you feel only you are qualified to probe.
No, not only me, but maybe we could explore together. It's not like I know everything. It's more like let's come together and talk about these things. And if you don't like it, then go to someone else, or just dislike it, like people do with this program.
It's going to be very deep, I'm sure.
Yeah, pretty deep, pretty technical actually. And it might just be serious. Well, I don't know. I'll just be myself. See what happens with it.
Well,
what do you say then? Remington's Millions.
Well, I think it could have legs, but if you would like to get your other hat for a moment, it's not known to everybody, but you are in fact one of the top YouTube news hounds, and you've found a couple of juicy golden news nuggets in the undergrowth, and I believe you're about to present those to us now.
Yes, well, as you guys may or may not know, of course, Andy knows all about it because he knows these things, and I told him. A couple of weeks ago, I sent the Age of Sigmar community on Facebook into absolute shockwaves when I uncovered a story about Rhinox, the Rhinox hide scandal. Basically, if you've not heard of it, just look on any page. Do
Disgraceful.
with Age of Sigmar. It set the community on fire, and since then, I think I'm the go-to guy for sort of unearthing the deep, darker side of the Warhammer hobby. But this is actually quite positive news I've been uncovering. And as you may not know, guys and Andy, I've quite got into the money game and stocks and shares, and I've been following the journey of Games Workshop. I thought, well, I could either buy an army or buy some Games Workshop shares. So because I've got 10 armies already, well, 9 now, I decided to buy some Games Workshop shares and see what happens. So my channel is going to be about that journey because it's been quite interesting, especially because of the big crash we've just had. So I've been following this stuff. Anyway, the story is basically, did you know, Andy, that and if you don't live in Britain, then I guess you have to find a comparable company. But have you heard of a company called Centrica?
No.
They're a very big energy company in England. Maybe not as big as British Gas, but there you go. Anyway, the story is that, did you know, Games Workshop has now become as valuable as Centrica and even as valuable as British Gas in terms of the value of the company.
I did know that because you showed me an article.
Well, yeah, just before the show. You
Yes.
wouldn't have known about it before I told you.
Well, I could have found out about it in the 15 minutes between me seeing the message from you and the show starting. I have my finger on the pulse.
Here we go. Well, look, from the London Stock Exchange, someone who works at the London Stock Exchange and Yahoo Finance put in his Twitter, Games Workshop, owner of Warhammer, is now worth the same as Centrica, the owner of British Gas. And this guy is a partner at a consultancy firm called Flint Global. So the way he's figured that out is by the share price and the market share of the company. Pretty amazing, right? That this little nerdy hobby of ours is actually as valuable as an energy company that people use every day.
It's reassuring that this has happened during the last few years, that Games Workshop have really opened up the chocolate factory doors and embraced the community more. Because it'll encourage them to continue doing that rather than being very closed off and insular like they were before. So I think that's pleasing, and it should be to the fans.
And I think the next part of this journey, and this is partly what my channel is going to be looking at, is that you think like Walt Disney, right, is like it's an American thing, and it's an American staple, isn't it? It's part and parcel of American values, culture, and it's so massive, right? And Walt Disney owns Marvel now, right? All the theme parks, got its own subscription thing as well.
They don't own us yet.
No, but what's the British equivalent? If there was anything in Britain to rival the sort of back catalogue, the sort of fantasy ideals, it would have to be either 2001, for me anyway, or Games Workshop. And it's looking like it's going to be Games Workshop, something that has potential for films, all right, TV series, characters, comics, tabletop games, video games. And it just seems like Games Workshop has the fan base, right, and the interest now to become a big global phenomenon on a par with Walt Disney. How about that? For a Remington prediction.
Well, we'll refer back to that prediction like once every 6 months or so and see if Games Workshop are closing the gap on Disney.
Well, I think we're looking at a 10 to 20 year journey for sure.
Well, we'll keep checking back on it, don't worry.
Well, that's part one of the news anyway. And by the way, Games Workshop share prices shot up today, are almost on a par with Walt Disney's. Almost.
Does that mean
Not
that
bad.
you're now incredibly wealthy because of your shrewd investments?
It means I'm in the green. Let's say I'm in the green. Let's say I'm in the green with that. But that's part one of the news, and then part two of the news is it was important. Oh yes, some of you may not know this, or you may know it. Do you know it's weird talking with these headphones on? Oh, that's better. I can actually hear myself better. All right, yeah. Do you remember a game called Elite?
Kind of.
Yeah. Elite was a game I used to play back in the day on a computer called a BBC. It was pretty cool. You're basically a space trader, and you come across aliens now and again. You have to shoot them. You can steal their cargo, sell one commodity for another, and build a little. You're like a space pirate.
I've seen
Anyway,
the more recent versions of that series.
yeah, of course, wicked, right? Well, the guys that made Elite game have now signed a deal with Games Workshop, and I'll read this exact. Dangerous Elite developer Frontier Games quietly announces Warhammer Age of Sigmar real-time strategy game.
So, on the one hand, that means we're not going to get Age of Sigmar Total War. But was Age of Sigmar really designed for that kind of thing anyway?
Well, Total War series is now licensed to Creative Assembly, so they're the guys making Total War Warhammer 3. Whether they'll go on to do Age of Sigmar, I don't know, but there's going to be an Age of Sigmar game released in 2023.
I would think an Age of Sigmar PC game, real-time strategy, would be kind of more action-based, more along the lines of a Dawn of War.
Maybe it says this game is based on a popular fantasy tabletop, specifically specifically to the popular Age of Sigmar era. There we go.
Interesting times. I'm sure we'll be trying it out, whether it's good or not.
And they described it as a rich world. So how about that? Would you call Age of Sigmar a rich world yet?
Well, they've told us it's a rich world repeatedly, but I haven't looked at the evidence that closely to determine the richness of it. I'm sure you've delved into it a bit more than I have with the realms and whatnot.
Actually, I haven't. Just looked at the pictures.
Well, you've looked at the pictures then. They look pretty rich, don't they?
I read some of it. I like the stuff about the giants, and
Was that rich?
Is it rich? It looked pretty rich. Not rich enough yet. No, we need some more deviousness, I think, and a bit more shade. Many more shades of grey, I think, is needed in the Warhammer Age of Sigmar world. I would say, I humbly suggest. The chat's gone mental, Andy. So with those two news stories, so I think it's clear that this part of the show is getting the thumbs up generally.
I think we need to do a little intro video and a song for your news section. I'll Photoshop a little picture of you in like a little news cap.
Yeah, I like it. That.
You'll have to think up some nice lyrics for the Remington News Hound segment.
We've got some wonderful comments here. Raphael Maj says, "Imagine Warhammer Adventureland, and it would be like Disneyland, but with gene stealers instead of Mickey Mouse."
I could imagine like a theme park where you're walking around in the Space Marines.
Void Captain Bazooka says, "GW do suck the energy out of people, or their money rather." Now, Bazooka, I would disagree with you there, simply because the products that GW sell have resale value way more than Marvel ones and Walt Disney, I'd say. Unless you're talking like first editions of this comic or that comic in pristine condition, I don't think they're comparable, because I think GW products are, it's an investment. That's my That's the growing feeling I've had anyway over the last 2 years. This is a hobby of investment. It's an investment of your time and of your skill and your patience and everything. But at the end, you can reclaim what you paid for it, monetary value, more or less.
You know what growing feeling I've had for the last few minutes? That it's
Go on.
time for everyone's favourite segment.
What's that?
It's not called What's That? But that would be the Games Workshop equivalent. Of course, it's What the hell is that?
And, give it to me, man.
Yeah, so after the wonderful little intro video for What the Hell is That, you'll see an image which contains 4 pieces from 4 miniatures in the Warhammer Age of Sigmar range. And if you can name them, then you win a lot of internet points and just universal acclaim from the masses. So let me just click the right button here to make sure I don't accidentally give you the solution immediately. And we go.
What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it a chaos dwarf or a vampire bear? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it Sigmar's beard or Neferata's hat? Oh, what the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? Is it a mangled squig or a sorcerer's rat? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know.
Okay, that was the beautiful video, and boom, there you go. There is this week's What the Hell is That? It's a bit boomerang shaped, so you got the impression if you threw this and it took off an enemy's head, it might come back to you. But I have written down in front of me here the 4 miniatures that were involved in the creation of this. So, what do we think? We've got lots of praise for this already, this segment.
I thought it was a 3.5mm headphone jack at one point.
Well, I can exclusively reveal that it is not that, in fact, and I wouldn't know which Grand Alliance that would be in for a start.
So let me just try and deconstruct this image. We have some honey drops coming down there. And then we've got like a red plastic. This is bloody hard, Andy. And then we've got a red plasticky thing. And then we've got like a white sort of like an arachnoid's leg spike.
Or is it? Remember, there are 4 miniatures represented there.
Oh.
So there's a divide between kind of that sharp looking part and the spike on the end. Those are 2 different pieces.
Wow, you're killing us here, Andy. It's a very small image. I'm having to blow this up.
Well, the people have got it blown up quite significantly as well, so they'll be able to see. This is a difficult one, though.
What are those droplets?
Somebody's going to get at least a couple of these, I'm sure. So what is the miniature that these pieces are from? Come on, folks, you can do it. Raphael says it's a boomerang. Well, yes, but that's not what we need here. Bazooka says Dark Eldar knife. Well, Dark Eldar are not part of the Age of Sigmar range, so it would not be a Dark Eldar knife. And I would need to know which model it came from, even if it was. Which it isn't.
No one's guessing, man.
I think they're just analysing deeply.
I don't blame them.
I think you should be able to get the one at the bottom. I think you can get that one. Oh, in fact, somebody's already got that. Raphael says River Troll Vomit. Yes. As they're now known, the Fellwater Troggoths have kind of a vomitous explosion from their mouth, and that is part of it right there. So 1 down.
That was pretty canny, isn't he? Wait, Raphael, why don't you come on this show, man? Come on this show.
And just ruin what the hell is that for everyone by getting all the solutions each time.
Okay, Sifty Shivrondo. Hello there. What an interesting name. I like it. Is it, Andy? Is it a dark shard spear?
It is not.
Okay.
Raphael has confirmed that the audience are analysing deeply. So I can give you some clues. I can tell you which Grand Alliance some of these pieces are from. So, kind of that red corner piece there is from the Grand Alliance Order. The blade section next to that is also from the Grand Alliance Order. I think they're in this order. Be wrong. And then the tip of the spike is from Grand Alliance Death.
Oh.
So Bazooka says shiny red elbow. Nope. It is not a shiny red elbow. And yes, I still call them river trolls rather than fellwater troggoths because that's just silly. They'll always be river trolls to me.
I like the word fellwater though. Isn't that a nice word? Fellwater. It's like rotten, stinky water.
How is that nice then?
But it's more descriptive, isn't it, than river troll?
More descriptive, but it doesn't conjure up things you want to be thinking of all the time.
Well, shall we carry on with the show and leave the image up for a bit?
Well, I'm just going to give people more clues. So,
Nurgling? Is there a Nurgling somewhere there? No, that's a person.
The red part is from Stormcast Eternals.
Raphael, Superstar, says Cauldron of Blood, sword.
That is correct.
Wow,
the blade part in the middle is from the Cauldron of Blood. So we've only got two left. We've got the spike and the red corner piece.
And guys, I don't know if you'd noticed Andy's post this week. You might be having a Le Grand sale of stuff coming soon, right?
Yes, I'm going to be selling quite a bit of stuff soon. So if anyone's interested in any of my worldly belongings, then feel free to send me a message.
How about you give some stuff away to winners?
Well, that is something there's potential for that to happen as well.
I know. Let's see the generous spirit, man.
And I was looking through some of my stuff the other day, and I found, because I bought multiple Golden Weasel trophies at the same time for the Golden Weasel Awards, and I still have one unpainted that was waiting for next time, which we never got round to doing yet. So maybe we could bring that back at some point as well. Someone did ask about that.
I like it. I think you should give the winner the option of whether they want it painted or unpainted. Because we have seen a lot of your paint jobs. So.
I think it's your turn to paint the next Golden Weasel trophy anyway.
What did it look like? I can't remember.
I'll have to show you a picture of it later.
Do people want them? There's something...
They did. I think people still keep them on their mantelpieces in like reverence. Okay, I don't think anyone's going to get this. So, I can tell you right now. Yep, giving up. So the spike on the tip of the boomerang here is actually a bit of like spiritual danglage from a spirit host. And the red part is actually from... Anyone going to get it? Nope, it's from the Celestant Prime. So let me bring up the solution here. There you go. So look at that. It's that red dangly bit of cloak that he's got. Sword from the cauldron, the puke from the troll, and a bit of spiritual danglage from the spirit host.
That's pretty hard, Andy. The red thing is just... That's more like a paint job, isn't it? It's not like a part of the miniature.
It's delightfully devilish this week. I thought last week was a bit too easy.
Spiritual damage, it was Nurgling says.
Yeah, I think we should start using that phrase more often. So let's get rid of that. Now, we have got one more thing to look at as well this week.
Sorry.
So, as I just cycle through these pictures, we've got a rumour engine which appears to be an owl of some description. Now, what do you think this could be?
Stormcast.
Stormcast owl?
Yeah, I mean, you just... Any rumour engine, if you just say Stormcast, you probably... There's a 50% probability you're going to be right, right?
It's either Stormcast or Space Marines, pretty much.
Yeah.
The two things that are constantly released.
Unless it's like a clockwork owl, like in Jason and the Argonauts, right?
It does appear to have feathers, though, unfortunately.
What was he called? Bubo.
Yeah.
Bubo, the owl. Yes, it looks like a real owl. So previously you'd see owls in wood elf models, wouldn't you? Or maybe on a tree man.
How long ago did we get some kind of woodland-based pointy-eared beings?
What, Sylvaneth?
How long ago was that?
Oh, God. What, a couple of years ago, maybe?
Yes,
What-
I'm not
what-
sure about
uh,
that. A few
what
people
about-
suggesting that it's going to be Harry Potter related.
No, the Harry Potter author, what's her name? Is it Sue something? No, Sue Townsend.
Rowling.
Rowling, J.K. Rowling. Do you know she's a billionaire?
I'm not
Billionaire.
surprised.
What is a billion? Is a billion 1,000 million or a million million?
It is 1,000 million.
Well, I heard in America a billion is a million million. I can't.
There used to be a difference between what a billionaire was here and in America, but I think we've pretty much fallen into line with each other, and I think a billion is just standard. 1,000 million now.
Million. So what's a trillion? Is a trillion 100 billion or 1,000 trillion?
I would assume it's 1,000 billion, but I'm not 100% sure on that. These numbers are getting too big for me now.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever have to deal with that much money, so...
Well, don't have that mindset, Andy. You've got to start thinking big.
Got to start thinking about owning trillions.
You need to watch my channel, Remington's Millions.
Okay, and then you'll change the name of it eventually to Remington's Trillions when you get there.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say it's Kurnoth the Hunter. I think they're bringing out. I think they're bringing out some models.
That's what Stu Gibson thinks, and Mickey thinks it's my spirit animal. I'm not sure my spirit animal would be an owl.
Can you turn your head 360?
No.
Hmm.
There's only one person on the show who's practiced the 360 maneuver in their life, and we know who that is.
That was the 1 in 100. Oh yes, the 360. Yes, that's right. There was a 360. Yes,
Yeah, you used to tell us all about those.
that was kind of quite revealing. Yeah, I think if an owl could talk, they would talk like you, Andy.
Would they?
Yes.
What's your spirit animal then?
I've actually been told my spirit animal by a white witch.
And what was the animal?
You know what a white witch is?
Vaguely.
They're like good witches,
Yeah.
druids. I was told I'm a badger. I was hoping I was going to get like lion or tiger
Or eagle.
or eagle or dragon or something, but I got a bee. Did I say bead? No, a badger. A badger.
It's better than weasel.
It is better than weasel, but I don't even know what badgers do. What do they do? I think they eat worms.
They're quite ferocious.
Are they really?
They're quite reclusive, and if cornered, if you corner a badger, they're going to come out biting. Especially the honey badger.
Sifi Shivrodo. I can't even say your name, dude, but I like it. He says he thought I was a badger too. And Mickey Jemba says I look like a badger. I'll take that as a badger honour.
Well, next week we'll have to get a picture comparison of you and a badger, and maybe the badger from Wind in the Willows as well.
What was the badger's name in Wind of the Willows?
I believe it was just Mr. Badger.
Oh, I've got a quick thank you because on last week's show, and for 3 days before that, I asked the viewers, what was this music from? And it was bugging me. It was, I forgot how it goes now. Oh, that's it. Anyway, one of the kind watchers instantly got it, and it was Richie Sakamoto with the theme tune to Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, a film starring David Bowie from 1983. And then I went down the rabbit hole even further and listened to about 50 different versions of that. It's absolutely beautiful. There you go.
Is that not going to be a regular segment then? Remington's mystery tune?
Mystery tune, yeah. Yeah.
Tune that you've just had in your mind for a while, but you can't remember where it's from. Start playing it and the audience will get it for you. Instead of developing that new app that will identify it.
Yes, exactly. And look, guess what? I played that tune, or what I thought sounded like that tune, because I didn't know what it was then, to some real, like, let's just say bigwigs in the music business. And they didn't know. So thank you to the 2 or 3 people who guided me to the right place. But I'm kind of gutted because there was a brief second where I actually believed that I might have written it myself because I didn't know where it was from.
Oh.
But there you go. That's what happens with great ideas.
By the way, seems that we've got a badger expert in the chat, because Notched Spear says badgers, they live in burrows in groups called sets, are nocturnal and can run at 16 to 19 miles per hour.
Is that fast?
That's pretty fast.
That is pretty fast, isn't it?
That's that's probably slower than a T-Rex, probably. But they are very small, though.
I wonder what they eat. Kevin Mitchell, thank you for telling me about the identifying the tune. Very kind of you, my friend. Now I've got the guitar out. Is it time for?
I think it could be. If our audience would like to start submitting any nerd confessions, anything from their past that once you've admitted it just reveals your nerddom to the world, then I think this could be a good opportunity for that, because we do have a few spare minutes at the end of the show. So take it away.
What the hell is that? What the hell is that? What the that? What the hell is that? What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Only Andy and Remington know.
Well, that's really thrown the people off.
Why? I was the wrong tune, wasn't it? Oh yeah, we've just done that. Why don't you say something? Do you know what? It's these reggae headphones. They muffle me and they discombobulate me.
Okay. So, folks, I think it's time to spill your nerd confessions. So take it away, Mr. Remington.
What's your nerd confession, baby? I'd really like to know. What's your nerd confession? Come on, go to the Remington Show. What's your nerd confession, baby? What's your nerd confession, baby? What's your nerd confession?
Okay, folks. Do we have some nerd confessions? Oh, we've got one here from Brad. I tear up every time I watch the reveal of the Dwarrodelf in Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring every time. Which part is that?
Dwarrodelf. The reveal of the Dwarrodelf. I don't remember that bit. Is that an extended one?
I don't know. If it is only in the extended edition, that would be quite a nerd confession then, if that's your favourite part.
Nerdling's nerd confession is that next week he would just like to have an hour of freestyling Rem. That's a good name for a channel, isn't it? And Andy, you just sit there with a concerned look on your face.
That's usually about 40% of the show anyway.
Do you think I'm responsible for all the white hairs in your beard, Andy?
Potentially. You're responsible for at least some of them.
Oh, okay. Sifty says it's the thing he's referring to is the scene in the Mines of Moria. The reveal of the Dwarrodelf. I watched the reveal of the.
Is that where they find like all the dead dwarves or something like that?
Yeah, and then Gimli gets a bit upset, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I mean, it's pretty sad, isn't it? But it's not. I don't know. I wouldn't shed a tear. Would you
Unless,
shed?
if I was a dwarf, I might.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure whether I've got the same connection with the dwarven people. Maybe
But that's.
maybe once the beard grows out a bit and I feel a strong spiritual bond.
But Andy, that's his nerd confession, man. He's just opened up to you there. He's opened up to the whole world. He tears up when he sees a dwarf upset.
Well,
It takes a.
I think we can accept that Brad is in fact a nerd, but it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can be a lifestyle that you embrace, and I think that's what you should do. I don't think you should be ashamed of that confession. You become so emotionally invested in a wonderful piece of nerd culture like that. Wear it as a badge of honor. I think that's fair, isn't it?
That's nice, man. That's nice. He didn't get the judgmental tone of the witch hunter.
No,
That's fine.
I didn't think it was really necessary for this one. I thought it
No.
needed a softer touch.
No. If you got any nerd confessions, Andy, you wanna tell everyone about?
Let's see. Well, does this count as a nerd confession? So, I harvested a nice hard drive from my old PC to put into this PC so that I would have enough space to have both Vermintide games installed on fast hard drives at the same time. Does that count as a confession?
How long did it take to do this?
Not too long.
Did you do it yourself?
Yes.
Did you consult YouTube for any guidance?
Not really, because the last two PCs that I've had, I did put them together myself from the parts. It's actually not that difficult. Once you get the instruction book and just start following it, you realise actually this is pretty straightforward.
See, this is this is something about you, Andy. I don't think people really know. You're actually a very intelligent person.
I think they do know that. They've seen 111 episodes.
But you could turn your hand to anything. I don't know. I don't know why you're so resistant to get on the Remington lifeboat that I'm offering you. You know, I'm offering you a speed highway to success, and I know that if I can get you a place on board my ship, I think the masses will follow.
Well, the problem is I was there and witnessed the construction of the Remington lifeboat. I've got a pretty good idea how long that thing's going to last and what the capacity is and what kind of supplies you've got on board. So if I'm hesitant, then maybe that says more about the integrity of the vessel.
We've got some more nerd confessions.
Bring them on.
Okay, something about Frisian. Frisian. Okay, that's too long for me to read out. But Shifty also said, I read the Kings of War rulebook exactly 14 times because that's what Andy said he did.
14 times.
Have you read it 14 times? I thought it was easy. I thought it was an easy read. You told me it was easy to learn the rules. You made me put it in a song for Age of Sigmar. Even though
believe I may have read through the new Kings of War rulebook 14 times to make sure I didn't miss any of the rules changes from the previous edition. So that may actually be true. I don't think it was that many. I may have said 14 times. It's a bit of an exaggeration. But if people are following my advice to the letter, then I'm going to have to rein in my wide, colourful vocabulary, I think.
Shifty says it was a short book. But look, thank you, Shifty. We have a real nerd confession here from Stu Gibson, which I think deserves the judgment of the Witchfinder General. Are you ready?
Oh, hold on, first of all. I don't drink this out of thirst.
Hey, court is in session. Witchfinder, a young patron of ours called Stuart Gibson says, years ago, I found £100 note on the street with no possible owner in sight. When I got home, my lady advised me to use it to pay the council tax. or something sensible. Naturally, I used it to back the Song of Fire and Ice miniatures game Kickstarter.
Fire, the great purifier indeed. Hmm.
Well, while you're thinking about that, I bloody lost my wallet a few weeks ago, and no one handed it in. And there was
Did it have
£20.
£100 in it?
Had £20 in there. It had my driver's license. It had a passport photo of me. It had my address in there, and it had 2-3 credit cards. And no one returned it. And I don't know what. I've obviously cancelled everything, but I couldn't understand that. So maybe I could have been that guy that lost that £100 that Stu found. I never got it back. Stu, you feeling guilty yet? What do you think, Witchfinder? Did Stuart do the right thing? Should he have gone to the police and handed the £100 note in? Or should he have paid his council tax and pleased his woman? Or did he do the right thing? Backing the hobby, backing ingenuity.
Stu, your funds were allocated frivolously. They should have been spent bringing heretics to justice.
There you go, Stu. That's not good. That's not good at all, mate.
Thumbs down from the Witch Hunter there.
Yes. That's not good. How does he make up for it, Andy? Or Witchfinder General? What can he do?
Well, it's not really in character, this, but the way he can definitely make up for that is to get his new PC sorted out and then play the part of Kruber to assist the Witch Hunter in bringing down the filthy ratmen in Vermintide.
No, I will second that with a...
There's nothing worse than the AI-controlled Kruber. For some reason, he's just much dumber than all the other characters. So, yeah, we need a human.
Have you ever backed a Kickstarter, Andy?
I've backed many a Kickstarter. Usually, if it's just a company that I want to support more than the fact that I think I desperately need all the products, and I'll just back for a small amount and just get things.
Do they always deliver later than they propose?
Many of them do. Some of them are very much delayed. But I've had quite a few that have been earlier, in fact, as well. Because sometimes they'll be so terrified of being late that they'll put quite a distant target date just in case, and then they'll often be able to start delivering earlier.
I always like going through the music section of Kickstarter sites, where someone's just made an album and they're trying to sell it, and the picture is just this guy in his bedroom with a guitar or a microphone, and you look at the backing data and it's just like there's 2 days left and he's got no backers. It was quite depressing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, Kickstarter can be a depressing place when you look at that. If you look at anything in the art realm, so like films, anything like that, you'll just run across, it's like a graveyard almost of projects that had 2 backers and then they were abandoned.
Well, talking to Kickstarter, Andy, Stu's just mentioned project you were a big part of, Cheeks. Yeah, this was a game Andy designed, highly successful. Cheeks. Is this available now, Andy?
It's still available now. You can still buy it, and there's always been a link in the description of my videos. So yeah, you can still get your hands on my Cheeks.
Andy, this was a massive success, wasn't it? It's a card game, isn't it?
Yes, unprecedented success in the world of hamster-based cheek stuffing battle games. No game in that genre has been more successful.
Have you thought of having a beaver character in there somewhere?
I don't think there's going to be any more characters in it now. Moving on to other projects. What
about moving on, just before we finish the show, I'm going to give you another lifeboat, another $1 million idea, Cheeks, the app. How about that? Cheeks, the app game. Then you could send it out to the whole world. It could be the new Tetris.
It certainly could. It is something that has been considered.
Cheeks by Andy and Rem. It's got a nice ring to it, hasn't it?
Well, we are both in the game, of course.
Yeah, we both got
After
characters.
a very generous backer paid additional money to have us as characters in there.
That's amazing, man. I never got a copy of the game though, so I thought that was quite rude, really.
You mean you didn't back it?
I'm in it. I'm like that's like saying Han Solo didn't go and pay to watch Star Wars at the cinema, so he shouldn't be given the DVD. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's go with
There you
that.
go. Disgraceful, man.
And by the way, for anyone who is thinking about getting their hands on Cheeks soon, then send me a message and I'll send you a little updated document with some rules tweaks in it.
Graham Rigg, thank you, Graham, says the Cheeks link is broken. Can we fix that?
Is it? Well, I will fix that. I'll have a look after the show.
Cheeks online. There we go. And look, there's the income streams. You know?
Hopefully they've not all sold out, and that's why the link's broken. Because recently, only a couple of weeks ago, someone did purchase a copy of Cheeks through that link, so I need to check on that. I'll look into that immediately after the show, so check back later or tomorrow.
So if anyone's like a dab hand at creating apps, the Andy and Rem game, I'm sure there's other people involved in Cheeks though, isn't there, Andy? It's not just me and you.
There were lots of people involved in Cheeks, yes, because I'm clearly not an artist, and look at that beautiful artwork. I was thinking that we could start working on Witch Coven, the game, though.
Oh my god, that'd be so amazing. I'd love it. We've got the artist, we've got Mickey Gendra in the house. You know? Her dioramas, real life dioramas, as well as the figurines.
Yeah, we just need to separate it a little bit from the GW IP, and I think we should be good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but they don't own the name Witch, do they?
They do not.
So
So we could probably keep the name as Witch Coven unless it's already in use for something else. But we may have to change some of the characters. I don't think we want an Ungor in there. Maybe Andy the Goat Man.
yes.
Yeah, so we can start negotiations on that soon, I think.
I think you need to do some model photos for Mickey's photo shoot. So, Mickey, can you get your costume designer to get a loincloth ready for Andy? So, Andy, I don't want you to beef up for the video shoot. We need you to look sort of a bit pathetic and skinny.
Well, that's just not possible, I'm afraid. That would require too much time and commitment to trim down that much.
Just keep on your diet of raw bread and what else do you eat? Dry cereal, I think.
Sounds good to me.
Dry cereal, yes. Mickey says she's on it. What about Steve Evans says Andy and Rem, the card game? Wow, this is like... We should just call this show Remington Industries.
Well, we should have had merchandise for this show years ago when we actually had a bigger audience, really, shouldn't we? There should have been like Andy and Rem mugs and t-shirts flying off all around the world by now.
There was a point where we had 2,000 regular viewers per week. And that's a lot in like Warhammer, I guess.
Yeah, and we were raking in multiple hundreds of dollars in the Patreon for our battle reports as well.
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens. Get your dislikes in for the YouTube algorithm. Remember to subscribe. You get a free subscription when you join. What's my channel called again? Remington Warhammer. Yes, but look out for Remington's Millions. I think it's going to blow people's minds and give them a lifeboat in these dark and deadly times.
Well, if there's any demand for the Andy and Rem themed merchandise, then let us know now, because we can still make it. T-shirts, mugs, thongs.
I think dice would be good. Remington on the one. Yeah.
There's potential there.
Andy Palooza sticker for the one person that goes.
Remington, some kind of hand stamp for whenever you roll a 1 on the dice. See, that's $1 million idea. The Remington stamp of shame. What do you feel about that?
Why would they be shameful?
Because they just rolled a 1 after calling to the heavens for help from the Remington.
It would be a good way of tracking all the ones you roll, though, wouldn't it? The Remington stamp.
It would, and you know someone was having a bad day at a tournament if they're just covered from head to toe in these stamps.
Right, I think I'm about done, really. Mickey says Remington thongs will sell well. They're like a mankini. Remington mankini.
Brad Bat says pins and patches. Yeah, like little badges and things like that. With our likenesses on, perhaps. Brad says measuring implements. Be arranged. Bazooka Remington top knots. Hairstyle by Rem.
Yes. I think I look a little bit sort of samurai tonight. That's the idea.
So before we start scraping the bottom of the content barrel, I think it's about time to wrap this one up, isn't it?
Nice lead into the outro there, Andy. Guys, love you all. Thanks for so much. Let's get this show on the road, because this is like our 4th or 5th show since we came back. So I think it's clear that we're in it for real this time. It's not just like a random promise that we're back.
No, this is a weekly thing now.
The weekly thing. So let's get it shared. I shared it like crazy in the first week and got I think I got 2 likes on the Warhammer Age of Sigmar Facebook page. Maybe I should try and share it again. See what happens. What do you say? Share it, guys.
Yeah, get out there, spread the good word for the Andy and Rem show.
And if there's any guests you would like us to have on, or if you would dare to be a guest, be prepared. Or whatever.
Yes, we are looking for guests, experts in various fields of the hobby, and it's going to be a roller coaster ride of excitement over the next few weeks and months, and hopefully years as well. And don't forget to strap yourselves in. So, don't forget to like or dislike, if you're that way inclined, the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to check out Remington Warhammer as well for your weekly dose of no video content.
And you won't find a link to that in the thing below, because Andy keeps saying he'll put it in and then doesn't.
If there's not one there is a link to it on my channel somewhere. Don't forget to check out all the other links in the description. There's various social media things down there. The Facebook group where you can be posting your Age of Sigmar or otherwise Warhammer related miniatures for us to cast our critical eyes over. There's various fundraising sources down there to throw lots of money at me. And all that remains to be said now is good night out there, whatever you are.
It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer fantasy, it's easy to learn.